Today's topic comes from simplifying and solving equations. Today we are working on simplifying expressions with the distributive property and combining like terms. Our essential question today is, what are the steps to simplify expressions that have parentheses and have like terms? Please take a moment copying the topic and essential question into your header, along with today's date, set the question column and your note column, and resume the video when you're ready to begin. I wanted to start today reviewing the vocab term like terms. So thinking back when we've been simplifying expressions, what do we mean by like terms? Well, they're the same type of term, and we're usually looking for them when we're combining like terms, as it states in the topic of our video lesson today. So there are essentially two types of terms to look for. And the first is constant terms, or those without variables. Those are like terms, so this is when we see numbers on their own without a variable. We can combine all of those into one group. And the second is terms with the same variable. They also have to have the same exponent. We won't see a lot of this, but it does show up, and so just be aware of that. So you can't, for example, you can't combine an x with an x squared. So let's jump into the steps. There are two steps that you need to know when simplifying expressions, and the first is that you always use the distributive property first. I'll abbreviate that with the letters DP to remove any parentheses. So you examine the expression. If there are any parentheses, then we use the distributive property to simplify that and get rid of those. The second step to combine each group of like terms. So using our vocab from up here, looking for the terms that have the same type, either constant or variable, and combine them accordingly. And we will abbreviate that step with the letters CLT for combine like terms. Let's jump into our practice problems. Here's our first number expression. It is 4n plus 5 times the quantity 7 minus 6n. So we want to use these steps to simplify this expression. What are we going to do first? Let's write that step here. Alright, so the distributive property is our first step, and we do have a set of parentheses here. So we have to do that first, which means we're going to take this 5, and it is a positive 5, so that sign in front tells us whether it's positive or negative. And we're going to multiply it by each term inside the parentheses. So we keep the 4n because that is outside the parentheses. We multiply that positive 5 times 7 to get a positive 35. And what do we get when we multiply positive 5 times negative 6n? We would write it here. Go ahead and do that. That's right, we get a negative 30n because 5 times 6 is 30, and the signs are different. We have a positive and a negative, so when multiplying, that gives us a negative result. So we have simplified this expression with the first step of using the distributive property to remove the parentheses. Again, anything that's not attached or inside the parentheses just gets copied down, like this term 4n, whether it's in the front or behind the parentheses. So what's our second step? That's right, we're going to combine like terms. So we look for terms that are the same. So I see a variable term here, 4n, and I see that the negative 30 has the same variable, n, so those are like terms. I like to highlight those or use a shape to show that they're the same, and then I'm going to combine those. So what am I going to get when I combine 4n with negative 30n? And combine, just like it sounds, means to put together, to add. So what is 4 plus a negative 30? You said negative 26n. I agree with you. And then I noticed we just have one term left, this positive 35, which is a constant, and there aren't any other constants. We've already combined the n terms, so we just write this at the end. So using our two steps of the distributive property and combining like terms, we took the expression 4n plus 5 times the quantity 7 minus 6n. We simplified it down to two terms, negative 26n plus 35. Let's practice on one more. So for our second expression to simplify, we have the expression 3r minus the quantity 2r plus 9 plus 14 subtract 7 times the quantity 3r minus 5. Alright, so definitely more complex. We have two sets of parentheses and a few more terms here that are outside of those parentheses, but the steps are the same. So what's our first step? Always to look for parentheses, and we have two sets here, so we're going to do the distributive property, and we're going to do that 2 times. So what do I do with this 3r? Is it attached to the parentheses or not if this is our first group? Nope. So we just copy it down. And now we're ready to deal with this first set of parentheses. So we have a negative outside the parentheses. What number's hiding here? Yep, that's right. It's a negative 1. So we have to take 2r and positive 9 and multiply them by this negative 1. Let's go ahead and do that. So negative 1 times 2r gives us a negative 2r. And what is negative 1 times a positive 9? We should get a negative 9 for that. So having this negative out here, which was really a negative 1, just changes the sign inside of here of both any terms that are inside the parentheses. And so now we've simplified with the first set of parentheses. We're ready to keep going. So now this positive 14, it's not inside this parentheses, so we haven't dealt with it yet, and it's not attached to the second set of parentheses, so we just copy it down. So we bring down that positive 14, bring the sign with it, and now we're ready to use the distributive property on our second set of parentheses. Why don't you pause the video here, multiply that through, and then resume the video when you're ready to check your work with mine. Okay, so when I multiplied negative 7 by positive 3r, I got negative 21r. And when I took negative 7 times negative 5, I got a positive 35. So we've simplified this expression to remove the parentheses by using the distributive property both times here. And now we're ready for our second step. That's right, combine like terms. So once again, I will pick one of the variable terms, and then I will highlight any of the other terms I see. So let's pick all the r terms. Go ahead and pause the video, highlight or circle all of the r terms. Okay, so this time we have 3 terms that have r in it, positive 3r, negative 2r, and negative 21r. So we're going to combine or add all 3 of these together to see how many we have. Well, 3 plus negative 2r, that's just 1r, right? Same as 3 minus 2. So that would just be 1r. So if I combine those, I have 1r. And then if I combine 1 with negative 21r, so negative 21 plus 1, that's going to go towards the positive 1 place, should give me a negative 20r. And now I look at my terms that I have left. I have a negative 9, a positive 14, and a positive 35. All of these are constant terms, so once again we can combine them all into one group. So negative 9 plus 14, well, that should give me a positive 5. Always okay to use calculators here if you need it. And so negative 9 plus 14 is a positive 5. Positive 5 plus 35 is... If you said positive 40, I agree with you. So here we took this whole complicated looking expression and we're able to use the distributive property and then combine like terms to simplify it all down to negative 20r plus 40. Alright, it's your turn to practice a few. Please take a moment, pausing the video to copy in question 3 and question 4. Write down the steps, and as you write the steps, simplify each part of the expression. And then once you've had a chance to work through it, resume the video to check your work with mine. Okay, so if you have completed number 3, you should have used the distributive property to get negative 5 plus 40, negative 5a plus 40 plus 7a, which then simplified using the combining like terms to 2a plus 40. If you haven't gone ahead and solved for 4, please do so. Again, pausing the video and then comparing when you've had a chance to do your work. And for number 4, we should have been able to take the expression negative 9 times the quantity 4x minus 2 plus 6 times the quantity 3 minus 10x and simplify it all down using these 2 steps to negative 96x plus 36. So that's going to conclude our video today. It's important to remember that it doesn't matter how complex the expression, they all can be simplified using these 2 steps. So as long as you can remember how to do the distributive property and how to combine like terms, you can simplify any expression. Please take a moment to make sure that your notes are complete, write your summary, and come ready to do more work like this in class.